In this episode 362 of the Orange Pill Investor. Just going to do a quick account check. Probably won't do much unless we are up a little, 6% on the day. Might add another covered call in here if it seems worth it. If I had snuck in here right after the open, maybe I would have closed some for profit. But I broke a fucking tooth on Friday. Uh, didn't know it. I just knew I did something bad. And they got me in. I got a temporary crown this morning, so I was a little busy. Let me just tab over here and see if didn't see if YouTube is actually working. Oh, what's up, Howard? Oh, it's Matt Mardi Gras. Happy Mardi Gras. Yeah, so apparently YouTube chats are showing up today, so that's good news. What's up, Kanal? How you doing? What's up, Hash? Um, yeah, so let's just take a look. Let's just take a look. So I closed yesterday's covered calls. Did I add one or two? I think I added two. And closed it same day because the price was down in the afternoon. So, you know, by the afternoon, the price was down 20 bucks a share or something, $40 a share. So I went ahead and just closed those back out. So I may have a slight margin use here, just a couple $100. Yeah. With the price climbing back, let's just look and see what I could get because I've got uh, the 8 covered calls on that I put on at 260. And let's see what I can get for just a few trading days. I kind of I believe this creeping back up a little bit more than I believed this Trump pump. This seemed like a perfect setup to just go nowhere. It would be nice if that would kicked off the next rally, but it is nice to see us clawing back a little bit of those gains from the Trump pump, followed by the Trump correction, I suppose. Let's maximize everything. All right, so if I go in here and so even with this, actually, Ivy's creeping up a little bit. I think we were under 30 Ivy rank, but let's just say I grab the 275, slightly above at the money. I get $1,000, which is over 3% return on capital for a partial week. So that's pretty decent. So on this green day, I'll go ahead and put in my last 2 at the money covered calls that I can muster. And that's going to give me 1,800 in cash. If we finish out the week at 270, then that means I'm going to have to come up with 8 grand to close these, which shouldn't be too hard with the extra 60 shares that I bought from selling the covered calls in the first place. Well, that'll partially cover it. What is 60 times? Let's see. Yeah, that would cover it. No problem. So with that 1,800 bucks, I can get what? 6. 6 shares for sure. There we go. Even worse than breaking a tooth, I lost my AirPods case with one earbud in it. So can't charge the other one. So I'm doing this with the laptop speakers and no frickin' AirPods. So that's annoying. All right, let's take a look at the rest of the positions. Yeah, nothing to do right here. Price is just kind of creeping along. Those are upside down. These are upside down. These are upside down. So nothing to do there. And I don't think I have anything else in profit. These call debit spreads, I'd have to check and see. So I bought them for what, 250? That's annoying. Let me make this a little smaller. Okay, that doesn't help. 1342 minus 1093. Yeah, like 250. Yeah, so these are slight losers. The call debit spread. So there's no profits to take here. And I think this brings up, before I move on, this brings up a little bit of a I want to talk about realistic philosophical expectations for call buyers. So before I even saw Quant Rose 1, I wasn't really a call buyer. I was a call seller. And so everything that I do is primarily through that lens first. And so I'm trying to learn the ropes of how to navigate the call buying experience. And what I'm learning is you have to figure out where you are in the scenario, whatever your thesis is. And so if you believe in the 4-year Bitcoin cycle, and because of that belief, you are making an assumption that Bitcoin's going to be number go up. It went number go up in 2020. It started in 2020, at the end of 2020, and then through 2021. We had the halving in March. So if your assumption is that we're going to, this was the bear market, and if anywhere in here from July 2022 to September 2023, if you stacked strategy long calls, like maybe in here somewhere, the January 2025s, maybe they came out. And, we had that historic expiration in January where tons and tons and tons of people were in the money. And they bought those options way, way out of the money back here. So I think it tricked a lot of people into thinking, oh, well, if they can buy the deepest out of the money options and strategy's just so fucking bullish that no matter what strike you buy, you'll just be in the money in a couple of years if you just hodl. Because that's what Bitcoiners do. Bitcoiners hodl. That's what we're good at. But you can only hodl Bitcoin or shares. They have no expiration date. With long calls, you are putting yourself on the clock. So if the only thing that you know how to do as a Bitcoiner is hodl, you're already at a disadvantage because you can't just put your long calls in cold storage and never sell your Bitcoin. You can't never sell your long calls. If you do not choose an exit position, one will be chosen for you, and that will be at expiration. If you wait until expiration, then you are basically saying that you are a slave to the market. You're just um, you're just throwing a coin in the wishing well and hoping that you win or lose. And so if you did not buy these long calls at, you know, if you didn't muster up the guts or the balls or whatever to buy long calls in the most bearish part of the cycle when everyone else was like Bitcoin's going to zero, then you cannot expect to be in the money here in January 2025. And so even in like September, this chop that we had, I think the top, I don't know, they had 530s were available around in here, and then at some point they opened up like the 890s or something. And you can still buy the deep out of the money calls. It's just that you're 12 months late. Well, you're like 18 to 24 months late, these guys. So you can't expect to be a year and a half late to the party and get the same results. Meaning you may have to exit your position at a profit, but they're still out of the money. And so even if I talk about giving yourself time to be right. Let's say you do a leaps. You've got something that's 12 to 18 months out. You got all this time to be right on strategy. Let's just say this is off the chart now because I'm only going back a year. I guess I could do 5 years. All right, so back here in January, December, whatever, January 2024, you timed this shit pretty good, and you've got leaps 12 to 18 months out, right? You've got the January 2025, January 2025s, or maybe even July 2025, whatever's out at that point. How many bites at the apple do you actually get to be in profit? There's only 2. Now, if you're buying leaps and you've got a hodl mentality, then what you're going to do is you're going to, within 2 months, you're going to be like, holy shit, I could sell these options for double my money or 5x my money or something. You're probably making out like a bandit right here. And your brain is thinking, oh, well, if I just hodl like these guys who bought back here and their expirations are here, uh, here, you're thinking, oh, well, I can just do what they did and I'll just hodl for another 9 months and then my calls will be in the money. But what really happens is you are on top of the world, you're up 5, 10x or whatever, ridiculous profits. And then implied vol starts to crash, sideways chop, the market corrects, and these $200 a share strategy shares are now worth 100. And if the share values goes down 50%, then your option values are going down probably 75 to 90%. And so now you've gone from absolute elation to everything sucks. And if you've got absolute diamond hands because you're an OG Bitcoiner and you gut it out through this, as long as your expiration was, January or July 2025, you got a second chance to get a bite at the apple. And if you didn't take advantage of it this time, you're not getting another chance because implied vol was through the frickin' roof right here. This was March. This is implied vol for November. And so you got 2 chances in 12 months to exit your long calls with life-changing money or with just, insane trades. And if you continued to roll up or you failed to exit any of these positions, then, you know, you got whatever you got. If you let's see, we finished out January at 400 a share-ish. Actually, no, we finished out January 330, 300 a share. If your January is expired out of the money, you had March and you had November were your chances to take profits. And you have to realize that if you bought in January 2024, you were, 18 months late to the party for people who bought leaps back here. I think I said it before, but what I'm starting to understand is that option sellers get paid to wait and option buyers get paid to act. An option seller is getting rich over time as Theta drains money into their account, but an option buyer is getting poorer over time as Theta drains money out of their account. So when you are blessed with a 4x move in 4 to 8 weeks or another 4x move in whatever this was, 2 months, that should be sending alarm bells into your skull to take some profits. Now, you're not going to time the top. You might be able to ladder these. You say, oh, okay, you know what? I'm going to exit some of my positions when the price gets to 300 a share, 400 a share, 450, 500, 550, 650. Well, some of your exits, you'll be able to exit some of your positions halfway up. They'll be in profit, but you'll take some profits at 3, you'll take some even better profits at 4. You might get some profits at 450, and then, your 550s won't fire. Your 600s won't fire. But at least you've booked some profits here. And this isn't like it's not like an absolute or anything, but one thing that I generally like to do is if I have 10 long calls and I can close half of them for a 2x profit, then the worst I can do is break even. Now, it still sucks when your account is up double here, and if you only take half of those profits off, and then you end up breaking even. That still sucks. But what feels even worse is from March of 2024 to November of 2024, my account portfolio in total went up like 8-9x. And so if I had just went to cash, cash is trash, right? But if I had just went and sat in cash, my account wouldn't be down, I don't know, 65% since November because I didn't take off this leverage. Now, granted, my thesis extends through the end of 2025. So in 2024, we got 2 bites at the apple. We got March and November. If I get at least one more bite at the apple in 2025, I will not fumble this time. I totally fumbled in November. The euphoria was just too much, and I think it ate holes in my brain or something. I took a little bit of profits off here, but it wasn't nearly enough. Whatever plan you want to put in place, it needs to be put in place when you open a trade. not in the middle of this euphoria. And I thought I had, I thought I had my plan because I even have these marked. Like this position was to roll every 90 days throughout 2025. So, according to my plan, I wasn't necessarily looking to take a bunch of profits in 2024. I was eyeballing like the super duper grand slam home run in, mid to late 2025. And what I didn't realize was how painful it was going to be not taking profits in November and watching, you know, a lot of those gains disappear. I think there's a saying that goes something like, if you make $1 million and lose $1 million, it just feels like losing $1 million, right? It doesn't feel like you broke even. It feels like losing. And so even though I'm still up like 3x from last March, which is kind of silly because even at yeah, even if I bought in at 140 a share, I could just be up double just holding spot strategy, like doing nothing, not fucking around with covered calls or buying long calls or none of that stuff. I could just be up 2x just buying spot shares. So even though my trading plan extended through all of 2025, I didn't realize how good and how bad it was going to feel by missing um, this sell signal here. And there was a ton of signs, right? So there's the price of strategy. Okay, it was up 4x in a couple of months. There's implied volatility. We had 52-week highs of implied vol. The shit was through the roof. There was just the general feeling like I remember people on Twitter and in the comments, it was just like everybody was like, holy crap, how come the options prices are so high? Right? If I was selling calls in that environment, this $1,000 that I just got paid would have probably been like 1,500 to 2,000, and everybody could see it and feel it. It was just like, um, even if I knew nothing about implied vol chart, like it was just obvious. Like it was so obvious you could eyeball it. And so that was just a huge failure. So part of my after action report from November is realizing that the attitude that I have when I sell calls, where I can just, if the trade goes against me, I can just sit and do nothing. Um, doesn't work. Doesn't work for long calls. You are rewarded for gutting it out through the dips, potentially, but you are not rewarded for um, not finding a profitable exit position. So I'm hoping the market gods bless me with at least one more opportunity in 2025 to reverse this error, this lapse of execution. Underlying thesis hasn't changed. Bitcoin, Bitcoin gonna Bitcoin. I know there's people calling that the bull run is over, blah blah blah. But when just a tweet about the strategic Bitcoin reserve can pump the market 10, 15%, like the real execution of the Bitcoin reserve should be insane. Um, I know some people are big happy and some are big mad about Trump being president. But the government can't afford to pay its debts, so interest rates have to come down, which means the market's going up. Now, will Trump intentionally tank the market on a short-term basis? And maybe he's already started. I haven't even looked at the SPY in a bit. So we're down, yeah, we're not down too far. So down $20 a share since February. But if they get in a war with these tariffs or whatever and it spooks the market, um, would it surprise me if if the Fed digs in their heels and refuses to lower interest rates? You know, would these people with their little gamesmanship, tank the market 20% in order to get a favorable reaction? Trump's legacy, he only needs the second half of his term, for the market to go up because he can blame the first half of the term on the previous administration. So he can totally just tank the market to get his way. Blame that on the previous admin and then ride off into the sunset with a stock market going into the stratosphere in the last couple of years of his presidency. And if that happens, that would be interesting to see if the 2026, 2027 bear market goes away or is subdued. Because if the whole market is going up because of money printing, then maybe we don't get that big pullback. I won't be betting on it going up. I'm assuming that we will get FOMO in 2025 like we always get, and people will just be FOMOing in at the top with leverage, and they'll get wrecked, and it'll take a couple of years to unwind that shit. So we'll see. I'd rather be betting that the market's going down. Like I won't be so crazy as to short the market. I'm not going to be shorting strategy into the potential bear market, but I'd have some limited upside. I'll be aggressively selling covered calls. And so if some of my shares get called away because I bet the wrong way, I can afford to have limited upside being wrong than I can betting that the price of Bitcoin and strategy is going to go up and it doesn't. I can't afford to go into 2026 and see these types of corrections. If Bitcoin goes up to 500,000 and then goes down to 250, as painful as watching strategy go from 500 to 250, watching Bitcoin go down from, whatever, even if it only goes to 250 and then back down to 125 over 18 months, that would be a painful 18 months if I'm like leveraged to the upside. Yeah, so that's definitely not happening. All right, so let's take a look at the rest of this stuff. Maybe I'll check the chats before I move on. There's a few. Hash says, Sailor going to be at the summit on Friday. Seems like those invited were all Bitcoin only advocates. Good sign. Okay, that's good news. Appreciate that. Goodall says, don't you dare tell me that I can't hodl my deep out of the money 1080s. I know they'll find a cure for theta decay one of these days. Yeah. Oh, I'm still hodling mine, but I'm gonna have an exit position that is, it's not gonna be an exit position where the price of strategy is like 1150, right? I'm not waiting for these to go in the money before I take profits. Like in March, April, May, whatever. Well, actually, these are July, so I won't have these after April, May, June, July. Yeah. If we get a pump in April, maybe I'll take some profits on these. I may hold these into like maybe end of April. That would be just under 90 days, like 75 days to expiration. If it looks like we're doing something. But same thing with the Septembers. I won't be holding these Septembers and trying to go in the money. If we get a pump to 500 or 750, these will be wildly profitable. And I'm not like this is too late in the cycle. If I was buying 1080s and it was a year and a half into the bear market and I want to buy these 1080s, 18 to 24 months out, like whatever's the farthest, longest expiration, and the expiration date was like in the middle of the bull cycle, the next projected bull cycle, sure, that could be considered a reasonable bet, but like half of the bull market is already over. So I can't expect to hold these until like, if these were September 2026, like that's just completely different. It's a completely different setup. Um, you know, buying 1080s at the bottom versus buying 1080s halfway through the end, halfway through the bull market. So if these become profitable, I will exit. I don't know if they'll be actually, they're already at like a, I could exit these for like a 50% profit now. I think I did take a few of them off the other day. Um, it's the only profitable long call I think I have in the entire portfolio. But, maybe take some off at a 2x, maybe take another off at a 3x or a 5x. And once you are kind of guaranteed yourself some profits, if you want to hold some stragglers for a 10x or a 20x, return, and you've already guaranteed a profit, I think those types of plans make sense. Obviously, it's not financial advice. Um, I think if the plan is just to make money, you can buy 1080s, you can buy the 5s, you can buy the 600s, you can buy the 300s, the 400s, the 200s. It really just doesn't matter. But if your plan is to exercise because you don't want to pay taxes and you just want to have a lower cost basis, then attacking the tail is probably not the way to go this late in the scenario. I am hopeful, that these technically would end up being in the money at some point in 2025. But let's just say it gets to 1100 a share on September 19th. I'm only going to make $2,000 on these. I will be much better off, if we get a pump in May to 750 a share. I might be able to get a 5-6x return on these. I could put all of those scenarios into options profit calculator and see. So really, I'm just ballparking and guessing at those values. It's just all hypothetical. And really, if these are profitable in May, I'm just risking turning a winner into a loser if I hold all of them, right? I don't have to sell them all, but you gotta, if you, um, I think because I'm so confident in Bitcoin number go up over years and decades, it kind of gave me a little bit too much confidence in these long calls becoming profitable and like, oh yeah, I can take profits now, but I could probably take even bigger profits later. Yeah, that stuff is not guaranteed. So, anything that expired in January, February, March, April, if you didn't close in November, then you absolutely got wrecked since that time. And yeah, um, I'm optimistic long term, but this mistake has been extremely psychologically difficult to deal with. Even as bullish as I am, it's like this just seemed like such an in hindsight, this seems like an obvious play. But the FOMO was kicking in and I'm like, "Oh, we got to 500 a share. Maybe this is when we go to 1,000," right? It was just uh quit my job time, all of that good stuff. So, definitely fell into that trap. Hash says bought the January 2027 1080 today. 40 seemed decent, and I agree with Josh on an extended cycle into 2026. Oh, Josh is saying he thinks that we're getting a, I don't know, super cycle or whatever. I didn't know that. Wouldn't surprise me. I know Tim is calling for Tim's calling for $1 million Bitcoin in 25 and 2 million in 2026. So he's definitely on that bandwagon. And I'm like I guess compared to that, like I'm bearish because I'm just like, you know what? If Bitcoin gets to 150, that probably pushes strategy to 1,200 a share or more. And I will be more than satisfied. If we get those kind of numbers, you know, I will be more than happy. Um, but it's not even that Tim is just making wild claims. I saw Samson Mao getting interviewed, and he was calling for $1 million in Bitcoin. And if I think he was even saying if the strategic Bitcoin reserve kicks off, all bets are off, like maybe even up higher. So if I interpreted what he was saying correctly. So calling for 1 million in 2025, you're in good company, I guess, but I try to keep my expectations much lower. Deck, what are your thoughts on Grain of Salt closing all his options positions in strategy? Okay, so he closed all. Man, it's so hard for me to keep up. I didn't see. So he's posting about that. Um, he posted that he closed his options positions. Okay, I would be interested to know what the signal for that was. Um, for me personally, the only thing that would convince me to close all of my long positions at a loss would be is if I was absolutely confident that we were going to see more short-term pain before a recovery. Um, we had the March pump, and then we traded sideways for 6 to 7 months, so March to September. Yeah, that's 6 months, and then we started to get a little pump, and then bam, that's when we're off to the races. So, from March to November was, like, 8 months before we got that next rally. So, is it possible that we don't get a pump until closer to May, and he just wants to wait for more dippier dips? Um, yeah, I don't know what the reasoning behind that is, but I'm not interested in that unless I really have some solid information that the price is going lower. Um, and since I'm so bullish, I would consider any, even if we hit 225, 200, like worst case scenario, I think if like I'm not a TA guy, but if I just come out here and draw support lines here, there's nothing but air in between 70 and 90, or really there's really not a significant pullback from 54. So 54 is like the support below the support. But being a little bit generous, we had a bunch of support for 90, right? We had the rocket ship up to 90, and then we had 90 to 105. And then we still had support at 90. A couple times, 90 was threatened. Okay, boom. 90 failed. So when 90 failed, if we would have cracked below 80, then to me, we're going to 70 because that's the next line I would be drawing on this chart. And I would assume that we would bounce pretty hard off of 70. I can't imagine that. Well, can't imagine. I can imagine a lot of shit. So, but then, if 70 didn't hold, then we're looking at fucking 55. If we got to 55, I might have to admit that the bull run was over, and um, and that the cycle has been invalidated or something. But if we got a repricing to 70 from here, that's another 20% off the price. Yeah. So if Bitcoin falls 20%, then strategy falls 30%, which would be another $70 off the price, $90 off the price. Yeah, so like 180, 190. That would be absolutely devastating. But as long as 2025 is bullish at some point, then most of these positions are fine, right? I've got some stuff, expiring in June, but I got a bunch of stuff expiring in December, a couple things expiring in January. These Julys, if I have to roll them out to August, September, October, that's fine. Um, I've got the September longs, I've got the September debit spread. So I think there's time to be right built into these. But if I had a bunch of Aprils, all my March and April stuff are short. The shortest expirations I have are these Junes, and that's 81 days to expiration. Oh, that's annoying. I missed the 90. Oh, that's how many days they've been open. DTE's 108. Yeah. Okay. I panicked for a second. I was like, holy shit, they're under 90 days. Yeah, I've got another 18 days before I really need to panic, or not even panic, but roll these Junes. Yeah, I'm of the opinion that, well, my base assumption is that the 4-year cycle will continue through 2025. If that is incorrect and the bull market is over, then, I guess Grain would be correct to cut his losses at this point. But like I said, I don't know his reasoning behind whatever he tweeted. So my assumption could be wrong, but I'm bullish through 2025, and so I kind of feel like every dip is a buying opportunity. So every time we bought, or excuse me, every time we had a dip, I've been selling shares to add leveraged positions. That's what I've been doing every time we get a dip. And it's a bit of a mental struggle to continue doing that. And, they say that the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. And so if we did get that dip to something catastrophic like 200, below 200 a share, I would find it very difficult to find a way to continue to buy that dip. But yeah, short of seeing Bitcoin at like 55 again, I'm still bullish on 2025. But seeing a flash crash down to 65 or 70 would not be out of character for Bitcoin. right? This correction from 105 to 70 is pretty, or sorry, 80. That's kind of mild, really. Anybody who was in this cycle remembers the euphoria of 67 a share, or excuse me, 67 a coin, and then 75% drawdown. More than 75? Like, was it like 80% drawdown? So that was that was ridiculous. Um, yeah, so I am not closing my long positions. I am adding long positions, and I would be very interested to hear what the signal was behind that. MSTR Owl says loving it. Danny, been being very patient, waiting since last November for the alarm bells to go off in my skull again. Yeah, yeah. I will be paying attention this time. 24 hours. Why not just buy the shares at the bottom and hold them till they go up and repeat cycle with major companies? Um, yeah, buying shares is as an absolute strategy. And if you don't want to put yourself on the clock by buying shares, that's absolutely fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with just buying shares. Um, my personal goal is to take advantage of what I perceive as potentially being a lifetime opportunity. And I've got some shares, right? I've got my $1,000, or excuse me, thousand. I got my 1,000 shares position. That's kind of like my base. And if all of my long positions completely bottomed out and strategy went down to 200 a share, 1,000 shares would be worth about 200 grand, and I would barely be able to eke out a living off of that. That would be that would be pretty rough. But compared to the size of the portfolio in November, I wouldn't necessarily be eating like ramen. I might have to cut back from ribeyes to fucking 80/20 hamburger or something. But um, I could eke out a living off of 200 grand, honestly. Um, yeah, assuming that 200 was the bottom, and then I would only have to like would only have to endure that for I don't know, a couple of years or something. Hash, yeah, I didn't buy into the whole market manipulation thing, but the price action this weekend seemed to indicate as such. Maybe an indication they are buying. Yeah, I think somebody reported that, was it for Bitcoin? Yeah, I think somebody went like 100x leverage on a Bitcoin position, like shortly before the announcement. Like it was so risky that if Bitcoin fell even a little bit, they would have gotten liquidated. And that could just be a rumor, but if that's true, like definitely somebody knew. And maybe there's no such thing as insider trading with crypto, so they can get away with that. But yeah, seems pretty shitty. Danny, my plan for the next 1 to 2 months is sell covered calls on strategy during next run up using global M2 money supply indicator, then buying more strategy shares with the proceeds. Sounds legit. I'm not sure what the global M2 money supply indicator is, but yeah, I'll definitely be going hard after the next rally. The next time we see something like this, I'll be uh I'll be selling covered calls heavily. Let's see. Colin Talks Crypto has good videos on the MTU money supply leading indicator. Okay. You answered my question before I even asked it. Then HODL on next market top in October, December of 2025. Sounds like a plan. MSTR Owl, Nithu, what if we pump to 7 or something with high IV? Is it possible that people won't buy my 1080s because of low IV and it being a weird strike? Should I worry about it? No, no, no. Look, you don't have to worry about someone not buying those options. The market makers, there's, yeah, you're not going to have like somebody like me or you on the other end of your trade, right? If you got, so the forms of liquidity are your volume, your open interest, um, and the bid ask spread. So there's 10 people out there trying to buy this option at 1625. There's 33 people out there trying to sell it at 1685. And there could be additional people trying to bid under 16, and there could be additional people out there trying to sell it above 1695. And so there's a bunch of volume here. There's 5,545 in open interest. And the bid ask spread is pretty, fairly tight. Like if the bid ask spread was like between 12 and $20 or something, that would be pretty bad. Um, and so a lot of these, some of these could be people, but the market makers are out here providing liquidity to the market. And something weird would have to happen to strategies, options, heartbeat, I guess. They're the most heavily traded options market. And if we get a pump to 750, like there's going to be a bunch of FOMO in there, and there's going to be tons and tons of volume and open interest here. So I am personally not worried about being able to exit this position. If this was in a poorly traded option, stock company, like I don't even want to say anything and pick on them, but if the big wide bid ask spread and the volume is like 5 or, whatever, open interest of under 100, something like that. You can also look at the liquidity of the underlying stock. So, if this underlying stock itself is being traded heavily, that can give you a little bit of more faith in the options market as well. But yeah, if you see poor liquidity indicators when you're opening the position, that would make me um, not necessarily want to open that position because I might not be able to find an exit later. Um, nah, I'm not worried about the liquidity on strategy. It would have to be a very weird black swan type of event that would cause the options market to completely dry up and you can't find an exit position on a winning trade. Yeah, I'm not worried about that. Penny Boner, throw all my spare change at the April 17th 1000 strikes. I now have 160 of them. Should I retire now or wait till the 14th? They're in profit April 17th. Yeah, those are too close for comfort to me. But what do you hold on? What are you saying you have? You've got the April 17th 1000 strikes? What are they worth? They're only worth 55 cents. What did you pay for them? So all my spare change at the April 17th. I now have 160. Should I retire now or wait until my bad. Okay, I didn't realize the joke. Should I retire now or wait until the 14th? Oh boy. Yeah, these are only 45 days away. So the unfortunate thing about April 17th, this is literally the exact option that would be looking to sell when I open a covered call position. I'm looking for 45 days to expiration. So to be buying long calls, um, that just terrifies me. Now, they're only 50 bucks a pop, so what, 100 times 160? Would you spend like 7,500? I mean, if you can if you can afford to roll the dice and just bet it all on black at the freaking roulette wheel. Uh, D-bot, such pain holding options through November. Yeah, absolutely. Sir Satsalot was just a gambler, closed their longs too early. Closed their longs too early. And you're absolutely welcome, Owl. All right, let's take a look at the rest of these trades. 240. Oh, the price is going against me already. I love it. All right. Yeah, nothing to do here. My Septembers. I think these are the only longs I have in profit. I scalped 10 of them off, I think, the other day to give me a little bit of cushion in case I have to pay to close these or roll these out. So, yeah, nothing. Oh, that's my MSTY position. They're still kicking my ass. I didn't look at the numbers today, but they're probably beating my brains in by about 20, 30 grand so far, which makes sense. I built a bunch of leverage into my positions. So leverage has been getting wrecked since the moment I started that challenge. All right, so this position, I've got 3 leaps, 3 covered calls. Price is going against me here, and it's only been open 7 days, so I don't think there's really much I need to do there. I've also got 1 more leaps. This doesn't look structured. I don't think I'm selling this against this because that's not structured correctly. I think I might have packaged. Yeah, I think this is kind of being sold against this package deal. Um, yeah, because this is worth about 112 delta, so I can sell a covered call against this and treat it like it was 100 shares. I didn't patch these up in a group, so I'm not even sure what I sold against what here. But it doesn't look like. I mean, I could do some kind of ratio spread, and I guess I could add another covered call in here, but I don't think there's anything really for me to do. Just wait to see if these print or get wrecked. Again, this just goes back into the option seller gets paid to wait. So when I'm opening these positions, I'm not going to panic because the price goes against me and my strikes are getting tested. I will deal with that later when a lot more extrinsic value has drained out of those positions. A bunch of intrinsic value could drain into them, but I can deal with that later. Joint account. No, I'm sorry, this is my allowance. Same thing here. I've packaged up yeah, I've got this poor man's covered call here. This one's going against me. Nothing for me to really do now. I may, on March 14th, I may take a look at the market and see if it looks like Josh's call might actually come about. and I may take a chance on just taking off like all of my short positions. Oh, as an option seller, that scares the absolute shit out of me, but might be fun. Might be fun to do for a couple of weeks and just see what happens. So this is the account I'm trading against, MSTY, and my 255 call is getting wrecked. That is a bad sign for this single option, but it's a great sign for all of these long positions that I have been amassing. I've got 36 of the July 1080s that I paid 800 for, and they're only worth about 50%. Um, so yeah, I need a nice pump by what, July, June, May, April. Yeah. I need Josh's April pump call to be right on fucking time so I can get right with these. Do I have any cash? No, no cash. So if I do get wrecked on this, like if I end up having to close this for like 2 grand, then I will have to either, sell more covered calls to come up with some more cash. I got these 4 extra shares I can sell. If the price is like 300 a share, I can get another 1,200 bucks there. Yeah, nothing to do. Nothing to see here. 5K account. I'm grateful to see that back over 10,000. That was painful. So this one was up to 35 grand in November. So I started this in March 2024 with 5 grand. Let's just say around here ish. It was as low as like 3 grand. So I think I was buying these mining stocks in March at the all time high. And so this position was down to 3 grand in April. But, up, down. This was the crowning achievement. I was trying to see how fast I could get the 5K up to 25 and patted myself on the back here and then just stayed with the leverage. And you can see this is just absolutely getting annihilated ever since November. So should have absolutely gone to like straight shares here or actually with 35 grand, I wouldn't have been able to buy 100 shares of strategy. So I think that's what bumfuddled me is because since I couldn't afford 100 shares of strategy, I still wanted to be invested in strategy, which the only way I could do that would be with leverage. And so I let that color my decision. And, I should have just moved over to no leverage. Anyway, so 4-4, you know, there's nothing really that I need to close early or roll here. And I don't have any puts that I sold, so just waiting game. All right, let's check the chats and call it a day. Dominic, $40 swing low to high today in strategy, a dead cat bounce until Bitcoin fills the gap or start of a new run. I have no idea. I try not to make predictions, and that's kind of what an option seller's mentality is about is um not really knowing if it's going to go up or down, so I might as well just take some profits assuming that it doesn't go up too high. And then if I'm bullish overall, then I take those profits and I can buy shares with them or I can buy long calls with them depending on how bullish I am. But I think dead cat bounce would be more like, you know, ooh, Nikola's not even traded anymore. Is that because they went bankrupt? Anyway, let's just look at GameStop. They could, if they adopt Bitcoin, they could actually come back. I'm tempted to just buy a lottery ticket. But let's go back 5 years, right? So I don't know. Could any of these be considered a dead cat bounce? I mean, it was just pump, but the whole chart is down and to the right until we got to here. Now we've got some higher highs and higher lows clawing its way back somehow. Um, I guess this is a dead cat bounce, right? We had the pump, we have the crash, and then we got a bounce, and I guess it's just bouncing. It's more like a rubber cat bounce because it's bouncing, but it's losing momentum. No, I can't imagine that unless the Bitcoin bull is over, then this can't be a dead cat bounce. Now we could absolutely see 200 a share before we see 500 again. I'm not saying that this can't continue to be down and to the right, but strategy's fundamentals haven't changed. So I don't think I can call it a dead cat bounce unless the company itself is dead or the thesis is dead. And I wouldn't call Bitcoin dead for this bull market unless we saw sub 60. If we saw Bitcoin below 60, I might say that the backs of the bulls were broken potentially for this market, for this 4-year cycle. Anything can happen. But I'm still bullish, so I guess I'm leaning towards the start of a new run, but you might be a month early. I don't know if it's starting like now or in the next 30 to 60 days. I just have my fingers crossed. Deckard, have you tried taking 3,000 IU of vitamin D3 for your muscle cramps problem? So I do take vitamin D3K2 daily. I did amp it up a little bit recently. I use a dropper bottle, so I kind of I'm not very precise with it. I don't know if I'm taking 1,000 or 5,000 to be honest with you. Um, I really should fucking pay attention. I will definitely take a look. I'm I'm of the opinion that vitamin D can probably help improve almost anything that you can imagine. So I probably should have thought of that, and I appreciate the tip. I'm gonna pay attention to how much I'm taking, and I will keep an eye on the muscle cramps. I appreciate that suggestion. Danny, are you keeping dry powder on hand to be able to sell puts on strategy during these recent dips? No, and I don't really switch my strategy between calls and puts. So I used to run the wheel a lot, and you'd sell covered calls until they're called away. Then you sell cash secured puts until they're assigned, and that's perfectly fine. But it doesn't matter if I'm selling an at the money covered call for $1,200 or whether I'm selling a cash secured put at the money for $1,200. So the premium for the most part is the same. So just because we're on a dip, it doesn't mean that I should switch to cash secured puts because there's an advantage. It just kind of ends up being that way if you're running the wheel. But if somebody doesn't want to sell cash secured puts and they're like, you know what, on this dip, I'm just going to buy the 100 shares at the spot price and then immediately sell a covered call against it, that accomplishes the exact same return on capital as selling a cash secured put. So, no, I don't keep any dry powder whatsoever. And if I well, to a certain extent, my shares are my dry powder, if that makes any sense. Because if we have a dip, then I would consider selling my shares and buying leverage at a discount. And when the price is up, I reverse that and I sell my leverage to buy shares so that if the price reverses, I'm not leveraged to the downside. Um, Eventually in 2025, if I get another bite at the apple and if strategy hits 500, 700, $1,000 a share at some point, we get a nice big rally, I will move about half of my position to Tesla. And I don't expect that I will ever stockpile any dry powder in the form of cash, if that's what you mean. Um, Other than some like credit, like I've got a line of credit on my house if I wanted to go and get some money out on a HELOC. I already took out half of it last March, but I want to save the other half of that HELOC in case, if we did see strategy below 200, I might break the glass and go get the rest of it at that point. But I'm treating credit as my emergency fund instead of keeping cash. And so Tesla and strategy will be my trading pair probably for the next 20 years, I would guess. Unfortunately, they're both tech stocks, so they're going to be correlated and heavily affected by interest rates potentially. But if the 4-year cycles continue, I feel like I should be able to load up on strategy during the bear market and load up on Tesla during Bitcoin's bull markets. And so, you know, Tesla would be my dry powder for strategy, and strategy would be my dry powder if Tesla becomes a buy, if that makes any sense. I don't think it's quite a pairs trade because they're not necessarily like correlated or uncorrelated, but I guess I would be using them as like a two stock portfolio that I would rebalance in between. And that's really what keeping dry powder is. It's just, if you have an ETF with 25 stocks in it and you're rebalancing between positions, keeping dry powder is just like cash is one of your positions and you're rebalancing between cash or something, some stock. And so no, I don't see a point where I would ever just rebalance into cash because I know it's a melting ice cube. Like I I could get lucky and get a dip to buy and I could pat myself on the back for having had dry powder, but over a long period of time, I know that cash is getting debased to inflation. So I don't see any reason to really keep any on hand. I wouldn't mind living like I like Jack Mahler's where he just, he's just has his Bitcoin checking account or whatever the hell it is and pays bills straight out of there. I find that interesting. But no, I don't keep dry powder in the form of cash. Deckard, I take 6,000 and believe the safe upper limit is 10. Yeah, I'm guessing it's even higher than that. I just saw I can't remember the doctor's name, but he was on John Campbell. It's Dr. Campbell, but he's a nurse. I guess he's a PhD nurse or whatever. Um, and this guy was talking about taking the vitamin D like you're talking about regularly and then I think he was taking another form of vitamin D, and he was just taking a shitload of it, and unless you get over, you know, toxic levels, like, it's pretty hard to OD on it, I think. What is it? Calcifediol? I think he keeps that on hand, almost like, like when you can take like 500 milligrams of vitamin C, if you start to get a cold. He takes the calcifediol in case of an illness because it starts, um, I think it starts producing the analytes that you need within hours, whereas the vitamin D3K2, I think that takes days for your body to process. So you really can't take the D3K2 in an emergency, but I think it's the calcifediol that you can take, as soon as you start to get a sniffle or whatever. Absolutely. I appreciate the health stuff. There's a, a guy named Mark Ripito. I'm actually reading this now. This book's called Starting Strength, and the first sentence in the book is physical strength is the most important thing in life. And I know there's some decent arguments against that, but I think it's probably true. And as bullish as I am about Bitcoin, fixing everything, my goal right now is to live long enough to see what the world looks like if it does get everything worked out. Not that we won't still have some war and violence or whatever, but it'll be nice to see what the world looks like when a lot of that is disincentivized. Yeah, so living off 200K is rough, bro. Yeah, and that's I'm guessing, that I could still eke out, a meager existence. But yeah, I mean, I guess I might have to go back to work as long as there's jobs still available at that point. Um, but yeah, even if I could, you know, like selling a covered call at the money right now, I got 3% in half a week. So I don't, as long as the options prices don't dry up, um, even just getting 1% a week on 200 grand would be what, 2 grand a week, 100,000 a year. So that's not the end of the world. It'd definitely be a pay cut, even compared to my W-2 job. But yeah, if the options premiums also dried up and the price collapsed, then yeah, I'd be cruising for a bruising. But as it stands, like that's kind of me guessing. Um, if I was just left with 1,000 shares and no value in my long calls whatsoever, but they're still going to be worth something, and I'd be selling covered calls all the way down. So all of the covered call selling that I could do on the way down would just give me more shares. So who knows how many shares I would end up with if we actually went down to 200 and stayed there. But these are the type of calculations you have to make if you want to live off of your you're off of your portfolio, right? You have to figure out how much yield you can reasonably generate on your worst case scenario, right? So if you think your portfolio might crash by 75%, you have to be able to generate yield off of the remaining 25%. That's why these dividend investors are like, their form of engagement farming is like, could you retire off $5 million? I'm like, oh my God, 5 million fucking dollars. Um, yeah, but that's why I'm not a dividend investor. Kanal, I keep saying you should have a space about nutrition and health. I'll roll deep as a speaker, as I'm sure many would. Yeah, I appreciate that. I had all these grand plans at the end of 2025. When I retired, I was like, oh yeah, I'll be able to do more spaces. I can go and get gas, whatever. I can I don't understand I don't understand where I'm supposed to be getting all this time from. Like, I don't have any extra time, and I don't wanna half-ass it, so, um plus I was kind of like account building in 2024, thinking, "Oh, maybe I'll get monetized and Elon can pay me a couple bucks here and there," and I've lost all desire to go through the engagement farming and the just plowing into trying to get impressions and stuff like that. And so I'm really I'm really trying to figure out what I want to do with this channel. But yeah, I remember we talked about that before, and I do love the idea because it's it's really it's more important than Bitcoin, right? Being healthy is number one. So um, it does sound enticing. I just have to pull my head on my ass and make something happen. Dectard Aubrey de Grey has some cool thoughts and research going on longevity. Okay, cool. Haven't heard that name. So Danny says, don't you feel strategy will outperform Tesla? I do in 2025, and that's why I don't have a single Tesla position. I exited all of my Tesla positions in the middle of 2024 because I'm so bullish on strategy. It's literally the only it's literally the only ticker in my entire portfolio other than this like single CLSK position that I built just to demonstrate the call debit spread setup. Um, this is not necessarily wise because there's extra risks that Bitcoin doesn't have. Bitcoin is a bearer instrument, a bearer asset, I should say. And you know, Sailor could meet an untimely demise or lose his fucking mind and like rug pull the Bitcoin or anything kind of weird shit could happen. Um, the administration can turn hostile to Bitcoin or to strategy themselves, right? Maybe not the Trump administration, but the next one or the next one after that or the next one after that. Um, the Fed could go fucking haywire and be like, fuck you, we're going to raise interest rates. And maybe it tanks the whole bull market a year early. So I think those are small threats, but probably means that this is kind of insane. But if I believe in Bitcoin and strategy owns the most fucking Bitcoin, I guess I'm using that as justification. So yeah. So, even if Tesla gets the robo taxis going in 2025, what are they going to do? Double, triple in the next year? And strategy could easily 4x to 1,000 a share over the next year. So I'm absolutely more bullish on strategy, but absent like if strategy didn't exist, Tesla meets the criteria that Saylor himself puts on whether an asset is investable or not. And I saw an interview, I don't know how many years ago, and he said that you invest in an asset when it's disrupting and the clear winner. So Apple, when they came out with the iPhone, Netflix, when they were putting, um, cigarette butts out on Blockbuster. What are the other good examples? Um, Facebook putting MySpace out of business, shit like that. They're disrupting, they're dematerializing the physical world into the digital world, and they're disrupting the industry itself, and they're the clear winner. That's what Tesla is. They've already won the electric vehicle race. They're going to win the full self-driving race. They're going to win the race for humanoid robots, and it's not even close. So my prediction is, at the end of like another 2 4-year cycles, so maybe in another 9 years, the top 2 companies in S&P 500 will be in Strategy and Tesla in either order. I don't know who will be on top. Maybe Strategy will be on top during the bull markets and the Bitcoin bull markets, and Tesla will be number one in the S&P 500 when Bitcoin shits the bed, right? They'll just go back and forth. There could be some other opportunities like, the gene therapy, curing diseases with genetic stuff, but I'm not really interested in cluttering up my portfolio with with a bunch of positions. So, yeah, I kind of feel like Strategy and Tesla are going to be dominant for the next 2 decades, and that's going to be plenty enough to get me through to retirement age. Kanal, a lot of interesting cross philosophies among Bitcoiners and approaches to health, things I've seen in my own patients as well. It would be fun, man. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we need to make it happen. Danny says it would be really assuring if Strategy posted their Bitcoin addresses. Yeah, I've heard that complaint before, and that does seem reasonable. That seems like a reasonable request that people can just verify that the Bitcoin is where they say it is, you know? Kind of like Fort Knox. Do we know that the gold is there? You want to know that the freaking gold is there. All right, that's it for today, and appreciate everybody.